So I want to start my presentation with Swiss innovation that are all around you. You might know Switzerland from maybe you vacationed here, so you know the beauty of our Swiss Alps, or you know the chocolate and the cheese, so the traditional Swiss attributes. But Switzerland has much more, especially for businesses, and that's one of the main reasons why companies set up here, and that's the Swiss innovations. I collected a couple of innovations that you might not have thought of, that there's a Swissness in it. And then I'm going to go through the main topics why companies are investing in Switzerland or setting up shop here. And at the end, I have a couple of company testimonials that show you. So it's one thing if I tell you how great Switzerland is, but it's much more valuable, as Oliver said, to know what other companies have done and why they set up shop in Switzerland. So let's start with the innovations. First one, I'm sure everybody's using Siri or also Alexa or any other speech recognition device, but you might not know that the underlying technology, the long short-term memory, LSTM, has been developed in Switzerland at ITSIA in Lugano. ITSIA is one of the top 10 research institutes for artificial intelligence. So next time you ask Siri a question, you know there's a little bit of Switzerland in it. Then also Disney Pixar. If you have kids, you probably have seen Frozen 100 times. If it snows or any other special effects, Disney Pixar has a research collaboration with the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, ETH, in Zurich. And many of the special effects have been developed here in that research institute. Starbucks coffee, good coffee, overpriced, yes, but all the coffee machines that Starbucks has in the 21,000 shops around the world is Swiss made. It's a Thermoplan, that's a Swiss company close to Lucerne that produces the coffee machines for the Starbucks shops. Then Google, you might be aware, Google has its largest engineering center outside of the US here in Switzerland, in Zurich. They started 2014 with, I think, 2-3 employees and have grown and are still growing. I think now they have about 4,000 developers here in Zurich. So it's become really a Google town, the city of Zurich. They work on different things here. Google Maps has been developed here, but they also work on different projects for YouTube and artificial intelligence. And Switzerland's also at the forefront in sustainability. Solar Impulse, that was the first flight around the world that was solely powered by the sun. Then Tesla, if you're lucky enough to drive a Tesla, you should know that 700 out of those 3,000 pieces of a Tesla are made in Switzerland. That's by the company Bossard, the family-owned business, and those are screws. And I think meantime, there's 2 other suppliers that Tesla uses from Switzerland. And then lastly, the discovery of the DNA, Friedrich Miescher, that's 150 years ago, discovered the nucleic acid. So that's the first building block for the discovery of the DNA. So those are just a couple of examples of Swiss innovation that you find in some of the everyday things that you use in your everyday life. But why Switzerland? So as companies, I think that's 2 things, the tax and talent that they ask if they want to expand somewhere. And talent has become more and more important and will be also in the future. So where do I find the right people for my business? In Switzerland, we have a long tradition of vocational education training and also applied sciences. So not only the PhDs from the ETH or what I mentioned for ITSIA, those count, but also a lot of the technical staff that are highly skilled. So if you're in a production or any similar business and you need tech or laboratories, you need technically skilled staff. This you find here in Switzerland. But then not only the Swiss labor or the Swiss workforce is talented, but in Switzerland it's easy to retain and attract talent from elsewhere. So the high quality of life makes it very easy to attract the top talent management. Expats love Switzerland because of its public safety and the many international schools we have here, good healthcare, and also the outdoor lifestyle. And from a company perspective, we do hear from companies quite often, yes, Switzerland, great location, but there's always a but, that it's too expensive and the labor laws. So I think you have to really look at the whole package. In Switzerland, we have very liberal labor laws, so similar to the US, where we cap the severance package at 3 months. The Swiss love to work. As you can see here, we have one of the highest rates in Europe of the hours we work per week. And the cost, if you're looking at the cost, yes, salaries are higher than other European countries, but you as a company, as an employer, the non-wage cost, the incidental wage cost, and the dismissal costs are lower compared to other European countries. So that sets off the higher salary quite a bit, and ultimately makes the business sense. So you have lower non-wage cost, you have very high productivity with long working hours and liberal labor laws. So I think that package really makes it why Switzerland is attractive. Then to grow your business, Switzerland is a relatively small market, 8 million people. A lot of the companies that come here, either, yes, they tackle the Swiss market, but not only, they usually have plans for continental Europe. So Germany and France being the neighboring countries, we speak both languages here in Switzerland. So it makes it a really good test market for Europe. A lot of companies test out their marketing first here in Switzerland, and the different languages, and also get the skills here, multilingual staff, and then they expand to the rest of Europe. So it's either to grow a business for research location, for test market, or then also another point is the many multinational companies that we have here. So a lot of the large brands you find here, it's a high density. And that provides really, if you're a startup and you want to test or pilot your product or service, you find the decision makers here for those large companies, if that's your business model that you want to partner or need to partner to develop your product. So those are the typical setups of companies that come here. And then, yes, I mean, you know where Switzerland is located. We are more or less in the middle. Every country says they're in the middle of Europe, but Switzerland is close there. You can access so quickly in London, quickly in Milano, Paris, Berlin. There's even a connection to the sea. We are a landlocked country, but the River Rhine, there's big traffic for logistics, and then also Genoa. So 2 ports are very close by. And if you're looking not only Europe, but the rest of the world, Switzerland has 31 free trade agreements in place. So, and with China, for example, as well. So companies are also using Switzerland, and from here, doing trade with other countries. The last one that we just signed was with Indonesia, I think was last year. And then also, I think, and that's really in my opinion, the secret sauce for Swiss innovation. We have a lot of different specialized research institutes and disciplines. And there, because we are a small country, they're all close together. And that interdisciplinary and also very pragmatic approach from Swiss research institutes, how they work together with companies and really have that fast to market mentality with new products and services, makes it very innovative. And here are just a couple of those research institutes listed. ITSIA here, I mentioned before, AI, but EMPA is, for example, material sciences. What else do we have? Biotech, Switzerland is big in biotech. And in ETH Zurich, there's a larger computer vision department. Robotics is big. So really you find all niches and all disciplines here in Switzerland on a small scale. Then another aspect, especially if you're working in emerging technologies, is regulations. Switzerland in general has or the Swiss government has a very tech neutral or tech agnostic approach. That's why if you heard of the Crypto Valley, was able to flourish in the canton of Zug, because they very early on, so 2015, the government there in Zug realized, hey, that's a new technology. We don't really know how to regulate it. So they gave guidelines. They didn't put into place a new blockchain law, because they looked in, they wanted to enable new business models, and looked in existing law and gave the companies guidelines how to be legally safe in a legally safe environment, but still have the opportunity to innovate and to experiment, because at that point it was still experimentation with blockchain, still is in some areas. So and the same with drones and digital aviation. Switzerland has a very bottom-up approach as well. The Swiss how do you say, aviation department, they created an innovation hub, where they talk to startups and drone companies and see what are the needs, what do they, where do they experiment, and then again give the legal safety and the regulations to enable that, but just the necessary, so not too much, so just the necessary regulations, that it's safe, but at the same time give that room to innovate. So I think that's very unique in Switzerland. That's why especially those two, drones and digital aviation, as well as blockchain, has been able to flourish, but the same is applicable to artificial intelligence and other new emerging technologies. And that's from our side, we focus on those key technologies at Switzerland Global Enterprise, because we saw that Switzerland is strong in those areas, so blockchain and robotics, drones, I mentioned before, advanced manufacturing, especially biologics manufacturing. I mean, it would be also interesting to hear from your companies then, where you're strong. Artificial intelligence and personalized health, those are some of the key technologies, and then also industries we work in. But we see other ones like food tech that's becoming strong in Switzerland, has been becoming strong, and others. And yes, this to close shows the pragmatic collaboration between research and the industry, and then there's also many initiatives in Switzerland. The Crypto Valley I mentioned before. There's also Trust Valley, cybersecurity, and we have many innovation parks in Switzerland. And from the industry, you really find the big names, so from Facebook to Google, but then also many startups that have set up shop here in Switzerland. And the research and development, I mentioned some of the research institute before. Then I close with a couple of testimonials, companies that have set up shop here in Switzerland, before we open it to questions. First one, Halmosk, they went to Basel, that's a company from Singapore, and they exactly said that multilingual and specialized talent. And the same, so they go to Basel University for fresh graduates, but then also seasoned professionals to have the combination of for the data-driven revolution in healthcare. So especially Basel have the traditional pharma. There's Novartis and Roche are located there, but then you also have from the computer sciences and the new technologies that I just mentioned before. You have the know-how here as well. Genji, that's from a startup from Paris. They set up here, and also saying that the red tape is kept to a minimum. So the cantons, different cantons, have a really pro-business attitude, starting from the tax authorities to any other regulators that you might meet. CSL Behring, Australian US company, large pharma biotech company. They, during the pandemic, exactly, they opened, or they planned a production facility. And they were also saying how, like fast track the whole project was realized, and the help they got from the Swiss authorities. Magic Leap, that's one of the examples that works closely with ETH together. And in Zurich, there's a bit of a hub in computer vision and deep learning. And they also mention here that the talents that they find here, but then in combination with the high quality of life, makes it really attractive, and why they came to Switzerland. Then Hamilton is also an interesting case. They're from the US, Texas originally. It's a medtech company. They started here in Switzerland with a European headquarter, but then put more and more production here, and have been expanding year after year. And they say that the CEO told us that when they have to, and they have, I don't know how many other locations around the world, when it comes to re-evaluating which production site makes most sense, or is most cost effective, they see that Switzerland makes business sense. And he also said that's really due to the skilled staff. So in the production, there's people know how to use the machinery, meaning there's less errors, or quicker changes, and that means that per piece it's going to be cheaper because there's less error made in the whole production process. Care, another one, another company in AI. They are from the UK, and even said that in London they couldn't find the right candidates, and were also challenged by the extreme cost and for recruitment and training. And then Adidas relocated from Holland, their European headquarters, recently to Lucerne, and also said because the appeal for their employees to be placed in Switzerland, that made the deal. Yeah, I'm coming to an end from my presentation. So here you see all the 26 flags from the Swiss cantons. So we have 26 Swiss cantons. We have some regional economic development offices, and we work with them together. So with Switzerland Global Enterprise, we're your one-stop shop, as you want to say. If you're interested in Switzerland, we can help you with evaluating Switzerland. We have short lines to the canton. So if you're interested in a specific canton, we can help you finding the right location and connect you to the whole innovation ecosystem in Switzerland. So yes, that's from my side. Thank you. So I hope to see you in Switzerland anytime soon. Thank you.